Good morning. Yes, we are waiting for another speaker, but we'll get started with two speakers we have here. I am Seng, and I'm with the Institute for Global Engagement. I am very honored to introduce our speakers, and I'm really excited to hear the work that they're doing in their country to transform their community as religious leaders. First, I would like to introduce Major Francis Aung from Malaysia. He's a Salvation Army officer with 39 years of service, assumed the role of Territorial Secretary for Communications and Spiritual Life Development for the Singapore, Malaysia, Myanmar, and Thailand territory on August 1st, 2023. Previously, he served as a regional officer in Malaysia, overseeing diverse ministries. Guided by a profound calling, he has excelled in work with children, youth, and adults, as well as in community work, an embodiment of his commitment to spiritual leadership in humanitarian service. Major Aung's collaborative approach involves local and international agencies and seeks to foster positive community impact. He is a member of international emergency services and has helped provide aid to disaster-stricken countries such as Myanmar, Taiwan, Vanuatu, and Indonesia. Major Aung is married to Major Mary, and they have 4 adult children. And I would like to introduce another speaker, Mr. Abdirahman Ismail. He's a award winner of the Presidential Award, Order of the Grand Warrior, and he's the Executive Director of International Interreligious Council of Kenya. Mr. Abdirahman Ismail is the Executive Director of the Interreligious Council of Kenya. He was named to the Order of the Grand Warrior of Kenya by the nation's president for his dedication and distinguished service championing international diplomacy and peace in the region. Ismail has played a critical role in promoting peace and cohesion in Kenya, especially during the 2022 general elections. He has championed and steered interfaith dialogues in the country, in the greater region of which it is a part, and through international platforms. Ismail is an accomplished economist statistician with more than 2 decades of experience in economic diplomacy, development cooperation, regional integration, development policy, and governance. And we have another speaker. Could you please introduce
Okay. I have a 12 years service there. So regarding religious and religious-related matters is working in the Intelligence Council of Ethiopia. Intelligence Council of Ethiopia is mainly working for peace, tolerance, and social cohesion on religious communities in Ethiopia. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Freedom of religion for interreligious tolerance and peaceful coexistence in Ethiopia. It is a privilege and an honor to me to address on the International Law and Religion Symposium on behalf of Interreligious Council of Ethiopia, a country where religious tolerance, mutual respect, and peaceful coexistence among various faith groups have prevailed for centuries. Throughout the world, including Ethiopia, there have been states that do have different positions towards freedom of religion, belief, and opinion. Some abhor religion, others regard it as optimum of the people. there are also existed states that recognize a need for religion but treat different religions differently. Some consider their religion superior to other religions. There are also countries that have constituted which recognize equally for all religion. Religious pluralism and the history of our country are inseparable. In our long history of religious pluralism, there often existed a culture of cooperation and respect among believers of different religious backgrounds. But the political system in that long history has been contradictory with the experience of the people. Thus, we see that religious pluralism was not treated in a crisis-free manner. We also remember that many Ethiopians were stigmatized and subjected to persecution because of their faith and were considered as second citizens. In the revised Ethiopian Constitution of 1955, freedom of religion was recognized. According to Article 40 of this Constitution, there shall be no interference with the exercise in accordance with the law of the right of any religion or creed by residents of the empire, provided that such rights are not utilized for political purpose or prejudicial to public order or morality. The religious freedom that were given legal protection and guarantee by this constitution were not specified and stated in detail. However, for the first time in Ethiopia history, the issue of religions is treated in a legal document. This by itself was a positive gesture. During the Dark regime, there was a heavy restriction on freedom of religion. Weakening religious institutions was taken as political tool. Believers were fleeing. Some churches were closed during the period of religious leaders were executed. The property of religious institutions were confiscated. Their educational and development centers banned. Believers were jailed and tortured. In addition, defamation and condemnation of religion by the cadre of the government were heard rampant. Under the constitution of EPRDF, which is 1995, freedom of religion, belief, and opinion is protected and guaranteed the constitutional by 3 principles, which is the current document that we are using. Firstly, citizens have the right to follow a religion of their own. This is Article 27. Second, equality among all religions is guaranteed, Article 25. And thirdly, separation of the state and religion is recognized, Article 11. This constitutional guarantee assists to strengthen religious tolerance and peaceful coexistence in Ethiopian faith communities. Besides to this, by the current reform government, in 2008, there is also an advanced kind of legal protection given to the Protestants and the Islam by the proclamation already enacted and recognized this religious institution. Others, more than 1,400 religious institutions, religious affiliated institutions and associations are also registered by the government, the Ministry of Peace Government, which is given the legal mandate to register religious institutions. Therefore, religious institutions, ministries, and religious affiliated associations are registered. Their number is almost 1,400. Historically, religion has been among the most powerful agents for change human attitude and behavior. Religion has traditionally defined what it means to be human, and it has defined the nature of our goals and relationships. The Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region have been in perpetual conflict for decades. For geopolitical and economic reasons, conflict in these areas tend to affect the rest of the world. According to some scholars, true religion is full of conflict. Though the religion is full of conflicts, there is still a potential for harmony among the people of the Horn of and the Red Sea region. The majority of people of this area are members of Afro-Asiatic language groups. Moreover, as adherents of three monotonic religions, the majority of these people share important values like strong traditions of respect for teachers of all religions. Most scholars agree that Ethiopia is a unique country in terms of interreligious relations. Relations, especially between Arabs and Abyssinia, is trade, culture, and religion, reach back to ancient time. With the introduction of Judaism into Ethiopia, monotheism started to influence both regions. The introduction of Christianity into Ethiopia further advanced its process. Yet another religion that stood in line with other monotheistic religions came with Islam. All these religions came to Ethiopia and coexistence mutual relationship with one another. This has made Ethiopia a unique place for all types of encounter, including peaceful relationship, respect, and tolerance in exchange of ideas and practices. Ethiopia is one of a few countries mentioned by name in the scriptures. For instance, in the Psalms of David, there is a verse which reads, Ethiopia shall raise her hands unto the Lord. In a similar way, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ orders his persecuted followers to seek refuge in Ethiopia, a land of justice. They were indeed received with dignity and given protection. These are instances showing the uniqueness of Ethiopia. Thus, Ethiopia was known since ancient time as land of peace and religious tolerance. Coming to our current time, adding to the long-standing heritage of peaceful coexistence, the question of religious freedom and equality has been further guaranteed by the 1995 Constitution of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. The existence of this constitutional guarantee has created even greater opportunity for religious institutions in Ethiopia to work together. The principles of equality fully acknowledged the difference between various religious tenets and accords legal protection. Religious tolerance taken it one step further and puts forward that the different religions should live in harmony with each other, accepting and allowing for religious diversity to the extent of working together for common goals. It is a deep appreciation of the rich diversity of our culture, our form of expression and way of being human. Therefore, tolerance is a harmony in difference. As long as incompatibilities exist, we have to enter into an agreement to solve our problems by peaceful means. As a diverse society, we have to continue the process of going toward a shared future. Such a process should be inclusive, broad, and deep, and will certainly demand some shifts of our attitudes, behaviors, aspirations, and even beliefs. Although it is a long journey that takes time and energy, with not quick fix solution, it is worthwhile to commit to such a great endeavor. Ethiopia is in process of social change, and the faith communities play a great role both in spiritual and development aspects of effect this change. Those two factors center to the contribute to ongoing change in terms of human and financial resource. Particular attention has been given to capacity building programs of faith institutions and prioritization of key people, religious leaders who could be better equipped as agents of change through their teachings and leadership in churches and mosques. Faith communities have a moral obligation to accept and execute peace-promoting programs based on their faith values and cultural heritage. Therefore, religious institutions have a unique role in influencing and disseminating relevant and timely information to their respective communities, also lifting up the needs and concerns of their followers and relevant stakeholders. This indicates that faith communities play the role bridging the information gap between the faith communities and policymakers. Moreover, this will eventually pave the way to address lack of participation, protection, and equality. Another added value is the power and strength of religious institutions to mobilize their followers through faith structure that stretch from federal level to the grassroots. Based on the moral values of faith communities, the youth should be given a primary attention to that their useful energy and potential can be used for constructive aims. For our youth to become instrument of change, they have to be properly mobilized and organized so that they can resist negative external and internal influences and preserve and even further investigate our Ethiopian heritage of peace and tolerance. Maintaining our heritage while also progressing in Ethiopian in development terms is a critical element in the positive image building of this great nation. In view of the above, to proceed with the ongoing social change, each development actor has to play its role in way that speed up the changes that would like to see to and promote interreligious tolerance and peaceful coexistence. The Interreligious Council of Ethiopia envisioned to see the developed Ethiopia with religious freedom and equality based on peace, love, tolerance, and mutual benefit. To achieve this, the Council has its structure from federal level down to grassroots, with direct access to every church and mosque at local level. This creates conducive atmosphere and fertile ground to address any concern efficiently and effectively. The Interreligious Council of Ethiopia that has been established in 2010 with the aim of foster mutual understanding and promote interfaith dialogue across the religious spectrum. So far, Interreligious Council of Ethiopia has made great progress towards its aim and will continue to work hard until to reach the finish line. Opening the doors for religious dialogue and experiencing religious tolerance will move up to have a guarantee for peace and development. Every religion has a particular attention to the golden rule that bend different phases together for common good. In everything, treat others as you would want to be treated. This plainly indicates that mutual understanding and coexistence play a significant role in nation building. This has to advocated extensively and share experience with countries in Africa and beyond. We members of Interreligious Council of Ethiopia feel very strongly that more than ever before, the religions are called upon to demonstrate their commitment and responsibility in words and actions and draw on the best resources the tradition have to offer to challenge the existing trends of violence and intolerance and contribute to peace and development for nations. Therefore, it is in the spirit of compassion, mutual understanding, and commitment to peace, as inspired by our respective understanding of truth and by our common stance in all its diversities that we, member of the family of Interreligious Council of Ethiopia, work towards that noble goal of peace and development. Further, we pledge to maintain our alliance and collaboration as we make effort to make Ethiopia more tolerant and peaceful. We are sensitive to the particularities of teachings of our respective religious traditions and at the same time acknowledge our communality as well as our responsibility to build.
Good morning, esteemed colleagues. I must thank the host, BYU Law, for extending the invitation for me to share here. It's an honor to share a little bit of my country on the interfaith engagements. As you know, I come from Malaysia, and we have a population of 34 million, maybe small countries compared to many other countries here. We find that they say that Malaysia is a multi-ethnic and multicultural country with diverse religious landscape. The country's constitution guarantees freedom of religion, and Malaysia is often cited as an example of religious pluralism. The major religions in Malaysia include Islam as the official religion of Malaysia, and that's about 61% of the population, and adheres to Sunni Islam, primarily of the Shafi school of jurisprudence. The king, known as the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, is the guardian of Islam in the country. Malaysia is known for its moderate form of Islam, but it plays a significant role in Malaysia numbers of Mahayana Buddhists, particularly among the Chinese ethnic community. Christianity is practiced by approximately 9.2% of the population of Malaysia. There are various Christian denominations, including the Roman Catholicism, Protestantism, Eastern Orthodoxy. The majority of Malaysian Christians are from indigenous communities of East Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak, among the Chinese and Indian communities in peninsular Malaysia. Hinduism is followed by about 6.3% of Malaysians, predominantly among the ethnic Indian community. The Batu Caves near Kuala Lumpur is one of the most famous Hindu religious sites in Malaysia. I met one or two delegates here who have visited this site, one of the tourist spots. Traditional indigenous religions. A small percentage of indigenous Malaysians, particularly those in rural areas, still practice their traditional indigenous belief systems, often involving animism and spirit worship. Other religions, there are smaller communities of Sikhs, Baha'i, adherents of other faiths in Malaysia. It is important to note that Malaysia's religious diversity contributes to its cultural richness, but it also has led to some religious and ethnic tension in the past, or even present. The government has policy in place to promote interfaith harmony and peaceful coexistence in Malaysia's diverse religious communities. Additionally, Malaysia has a system of Sharia law that applies to Muslims in certain areas, but non-Muslims are governed by civil law. Therefore, with the formation of Malaysian Consultative Council of Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism, Sikhism, and Taoism is crucial. Its acronym is MCCBCHST, a mouthful. Established in 1983, it is dedicated to the promotion of goodwill, harmony, and unity amongst all Malaysians, irrespective of creed, religion, race, culture, or gender. Roundtable dialogue is its principal and preferred means to resolve potential conflicts arising from differences in plural society. We believe that there can be unity in diversity. Many faiths, one nation is our vision for Malaysia. And the aims of this group, MCCBCHSD, the aim is to promote understanding, mutual respect, cooperation between people of different religions, to study and resolve problems affecting all interreligious relationships, to make representations regarding religious matters when necessary, to advance, promote the religious, cultural, educational, and social rights and interests of the religious bodies. Its objective, to uphold and promote the ideas of enunciated in the Rukun Negara, the principles of the nation, to promote unity, harmony, and understanding amongst people of different religions through conferences, seminars, and other channels, to print, publish, distribute journals, periodicals, leaflets, or books that the Executive Committee may consider desirable for the promotion of its objects, with the proviso that prior approval must be obtained from the competent authority. Interfaith dialogue in Malaysia has been both progress and challenges, and its status can be very depending on various factors, including government policies, social dynamics, and interactions among religious communities. How is the progress thus far? Interfaith organizations. Malaysia has several interfaith organizations and councils that work towards promoting understanding, tolerance, and cooperation among different religious communities. These organizations often organize dialogues, seminars, and events to foster better relations. Government initiatives. The government has at times initiated interfaith dialogues and discussions to address religious and social issues. These efforts are often aimed at maintaining harmony among Malaysia's diverse religious groups. Interfaith forums. Various interfaith forums and conferences are held in Malaysia, bringing together leaders and representatives from different religious backgrounds to discuss common issues, share perspective, build bridges of understanding. Community initiatives. Many individuals and communities in Malaysia also take part in grassroots interfaith efforts. These include joint charity events, cultural exchanges, educational programs to promote religious tolerance. What are the challenges? Religious tensions. Malaysia has experienced religious tensions and conflicts in the past, sometimes fueled by issues like religious conversions, religious rights, and the role of Islam in society. These tensions can hinder interfaith dialogue efforts. Legal and policy concerns. Malaysia has complex legal and political environment related to religion. Some religious issues are governed by state-level Sharia law for Muslims, while civil laws apply to non-Muslims. These legal distinctions can sometimes create challenges in fostering interfaith understanding. Minority concerns. Some minority religious groups in Malaysia have expressed concerns about their rights and protections. Issues related to the conversions of minors to Islam, unequal treatment, and religious discrimination have been raised. Political factors. The role of religion in Malaysian politics can impact interfaith relations. Politicians sometimes use religious issues to gain support or leverage, which can contribute to polarization. It's important to note that the status of interfaith dialogue in Malaysia can evolve over time due to changing circumstances and government policies. The Malaysian government's commitment to promoting interfaith harmony, as well as the actions of religious leaders and civil society organizations, will continue to shape the landscape of interfaith dialogue in the country. Religious freedom in Malaysia has been a complex and contentious issue for several years, reflecting the country's unique social and political landscape. Here are some Here are some detailed aspects of it. Constitutional framework. Malaysia's constitution guarantees freedom of religion in Article 11. It states that every person has the right to profess and practice their religion. However, this right is subject to various limitations, including the sensitive issue clause that allows states to enact laws for the control and prohibition of propagation of any religious doctrine among Muslims. This clause has been a source of tension and controversy. Islam as the official religion. Malaysia's constitution also declares Islam as the official religion of the country. While non-Muslims are free to practice their faith, this official status sometimes leads to preferential treatment for Islam in various aspects of life, including family law and religious conversions. Religious conversions. Religious conversions, particularly from Islam to other religions, have been a sensitive issue. In Malaysia, living Islam can be legally complicated, and those attempting to convert often face social stigma, family pressure, and legal obstacles. Interfaith marriages. Interfaith marriages, especially between Muslim and non-Muslim, face challenges due to the requirement that non-Muslim partner often needs to convert to Islam to legalize the marriage. This conversion is sometimes a contentious issue, and it has sparked debates about freedom of choice in religious matters. Use of the word Allah. The debate may be not in other Muslim countries that I know of, but in Malaysia. The debate over whether non-Muslims can use the word Allah to refer to God has been a recurring issue. Some states have imposed restrictions on non-Muslims using the term, citing concerns about confusion or potential religious sensitivities. Places of worship. Non-Muslim religious groups have occasionally encountered difficulties in obtaining permits to build or renovate places of worship. These restrictions can limit the ability of religious minorities to exercise their faith freely. Interreligious tensions. Civil and Sharia courts, which can lead to jurisdiction disputes and complication, especially in cases involving religious matters. Political factors such as the influence of Islamic political parties also impact the landscape of religious freedom. So, government initiatives. The Malaysian government has periodically taken steps to promote interfaith dialogue and understanding. Efforts have been made to address issues related to religious freedom and promote tolerance. Here ends my paper, but I'd like to highlight, I'm not sure if any of you are aware that United States Department Office has on its website the international religious freedom of different countries. And there's a report for Malaysia for the 2022, if you want to go and search for it. And I just pick 4 points of these points that they have reported, which is quite accurate. The government in Malaysia has the power to mandate doctrine for Muslims and promote Sunni Islam above all other religious groups. Sedition laws criminalize speech and promotes ill will, hostility, or hatred on the grounds of religion. And the government maintains a parallel legal system for certain civil matters for Muslims covered by Sharia. The government arrested several individuals during the year of blasphemy and took action against those who diverged from the official interpretation of Islam. The Human Rights Commission of Malaysia found that 200 in the year 2016 disappearance of Christian pastor and his wife was likely a case of enforced disappearance, but found no evidence that they were abducted by state agents. The government continued to selectively prosecute persons by insulting Islam and largely ignore criticism of other faiths. There were reports of forced conversions to Islam, especially among indigenous populations, and problems in registration registration as non-profit charitable organizations or in building house of worship. The increased intolerance and respect for religious minorities were also discussed in the U.S. Embassy officials. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I greet you with the Islamic greeting of Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which is peace be upon you all. Peace and blessings of the Almighty be upon you. I represent the Interreligious Council of Kenya, known as the IRCK. I am also glad and honored and humbled to be in the company of the chairman of the Interreligious Council, who is attending this panel today, seated over there. If you can stand up, please. He is Reverend Father Joseph Mutie, and he's the chairman of all the faith communities, the organization that brings together all the faith communities. I'm going to speak briefly about Kenya and our experiences in terms of freedom of religion or belief, the salient aspects of it. Firstly, as I said, I come here representing and speaking from a point of view of the Interreligious Council, for which I am the executive director. I coordinate all these faith communities under the leadership of the chairman here and the board. We represent nearly the entire spectrum of the faith communities in Kenya, all of them. Christians of all denominations. We have 5 major Christian organizations who are members, they're umbrella bodies. And we have 3 Muslim organizations, and we have the Hindu community represented as a faith community. For the Christians, one might wonder, are there only 5 Christian organizations? Why? I thought Christians were more than that. They are subgroups within the 5. And the 5 are the Catholics under the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, the Evangelical Alliance, which brings together very many evangelical groups. We have the Seventh-day Adventist Church, SDA. We have the Organization of African Instituted Churches, independent churches based in Africa, including the Orthodox Church and others, but also some that have their base in Africa and in Kenya. And which one have I forgotten, Father Mutie? Yeah? No, the Christians. I said there's the evangelicals, the Catholics, the SDA, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, which brings together very many other Protestant churches, including the Anglican Church. For the Muslims, we have the main Muslim Sunni groups represented by the Supreme Council of Kenya Muslim SUPKEM, the National Muslim Leaders Forum, and we also have the Shia community, which has subgroups within the Shias. And then we have, of course, the Hindus, and within the Hindus, as a sub-member, we have, of course, the Sikh community. Kenya is largely a religious country, and religion is seen visibly in the life of the people of Kenya. Nearly 90% or more of Kenyans belong to one faith community, one faith tradition or another. They either go to a church or to a mosque or to a temple. So it's very diverse. And of course, the diversity can be seen from the number of churches and institutions that are registered. It's also diverse in many other aspects in terms of cultural diversity. We have 43 plus communities. They call them tribes in Kenya, and tribe is a very important aspect of the Kenyan society, like in many other African countries. tribes distinguishing each other by virtue of their language and cultural practices. I'd like now to speak about then, if Kenya is like that, what is the prevailing environment that enables the people to practice freedom of religion or belief? The Constitution of Kenya, current Constitution, promulgated in the year 2010, it's called, officially it's called the 2010 Constitution of Kenya 2010. In its preamble has the words or the phrase or the sentence, preambular paragraph, acknowledging the supremacy of the Almighty God. And throughout the document there are references to faith and so on. Kenya's constitution is considered very progressive, amongst the most progressive in the world, particularly the Bill of Rights, which provides lots of freedoms and curtails and provides limitations for state and individuals from offending each other or crossing each other's path and constraining each other. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 provides for freedom of religion and belief, and individually or as a community. This includes the freedom to manifest any religion through worship, practice, teaching, or observance, and to debate religious questions publicly without offending other people. Article 32 of the Kenya Constitution provides for freedom for conscience, religion, belief, and opinion, whereby every person has the right to each of those. The Constitution further separates the Constitution provision of freedom of religion separates religion. It's called church generally, understood to mean religion. When I say church, sometimes other faiths take offense. And in the Constitution and in many of the spaces, legal spaces, the reference to God in swearing, in the oaths that people take in the courts when they're being sworn into office, so help me God, and so on, is very abundant. The national anthem is entirely a prayer, the whole of it. And it's a common prayer that does not offend any faith. But then what many analysts may not, unless you look very deeply into it, then if this is the situation, are there any concerns for anybody within that framework of the space of the law, particularly the Constitution? What are the deficits? And not very many people, including the state, I'm not so sure that this conversation has happened. It happens in real terms, in terms of some actions being objected to or being raised, but the essence of the Constitution are not debated. Kenyans came together as a state to form the nation of Kenya, not as a matter of choice. We found ourselves in a country called Kenya, and we are different ethnic communities, we have different cultures, different religions, and this state was cobbled up by colonial administration that we inherited. So we find ourselves in this space called Kenya, that we must coexist. That being the case, and with a very fine law that I spoke about, which all of us, regardless of our faith, we appreciate as the most progressive constitution, some of the deficits and inadequacies, sometimes innocently, I mean, it's not out of design, it's some things happen by default. is largely based on the English common law. And that's not my culture, not the other person's culture. It is alien culture. So it's not a law that we established based on our value systems. We did not discuss to establish law and a constitution. We just borrowed the English common law inherited from our colonial master Britain. And this is not based on our traditions. So some people just live with it. I mean, we all live with it anyways. But the salient problems that it sometimes we face is that this law is based on Judeo traditions, because that's where it's come from, the English common law. And so, for example, many things, marriage, for example, until we instituted certain things to look after other faith communities, would be strictly in the prism of looking at it from the English common law and Christian tradition of the English people. So, with that defect, which is by default, we have had to now agitate. Some segments of the society have had to agitate in order to look at, because we belong to different cultures and faiths. And this, I'm speaking about the Muslim community. And we said we cannot introduce the Sharia law in its all essence. During the colonial times, there was a negotiated agreement, because the coastal strip was largely then Muslim, still to some extent, the coastal strip. And it was ruled by the Sultan of Oman. And when they were handing over that part of the country to the Kenya, to the British, they said, let's have these people have their court system. They call it Mohammedan courts, but basically it is the Qadhi's court that allowed the Muslim community certain basic rights that are within Islam. Not the entire Sharia, but some aspects. For instance, the Qadhi's court was established, has been in place from that time, over 100 years. And it allows for the Muslims to have a Qadhi's court entrenched in the legal system of Kenya, where they deal with specific issues of family law, including matters of inheritance, matters of marriage, and matters of divorce, so that you don't go through the rigors of the other court system and traditions. So these are some of the defects, but let me now very briefly, I note that I only have 5 minutes. We will discuss the other things. As the interfaith, what have we been doing? We have come together. The essence of this interfaith is, number one, to acknowledge and appreciate our differences, that we are here and we are going to be here, and we are different. Christians of different shades and traditions are different even amongst themselves. They have certain differences, but they're also very different from Muslims and Hindus. And we appreciate and respect these differences. And then the second principle is to have tolerance amongst these people of these faith communities. The third point is emphasize on common and shared values. We de-emphasize our differences, but there are many things that we share as common values, even from our own scriptures, various scriptures. So we emphasize those so that in the public space and in the legal systems and in the practices, in our institutions, at least they are not going against these value systems that we share in common. And then the fourth one is our common strategies and actions on our common aspirations and how to deal with common challenges. Common aspirations, we need a peaceful, stable country where we coexist peacefully, and therefore we work together on that. And issues of constitutional and democracy, those are issues that we all cherish, so we work together as faith communities. on matters of economic governance, including leadership and integrity, which is part of our constitution, but also part of our faith traditions, to emphasize that people elect people of integrity and that corruption is removed from our public space and governance. And then we also deal with health and social well-being. For example, faith communities run lots of educational institutions, health institutions all over the country. In fact, in some places, they were, until very recently, the de facto providers of these services. But there are contemporary and issues of difficulties today. For example, we have COVID-19, which came up. And there was a big challenge by government and the agencies that were dealing with it. They were all myths and misconceptions, and as faith communities, we had to come up to step forward and say it's okay to take the vaccines. We provided our spaces of worship and things like that. On HIV/AIDS pandemic, when it was around, we also had to come and say, no, let's not regard this as sin, as arising from sin. Let us de-emphasize it from sin. It's any other disease, like any other disease, and it could affect anyone. And beyond the person that is infected with HIV, you also have families, you have parents, you have every people, and they need pastoral care, they need access to services, and therefore they need compassion. Let me stop there. I know I still have a minute or so, but we will discuss the other aspects later.
Thank you so much. So we will have just a few minutes for Q&A, so maybe we can take one or two questions. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. So, yeah.
This question is for Francis Aung. You described the situation or the religious situation or demographic in Malaysia. I've been there a few times. The east side of Malaysia and west side seem quite different to me. So what you described, does it apply to the whole country, or is it still rather different between the two?
Yeah, okay. Yes, it applies to the whole country because the law of the land it embodies both East and West Malaysia. No doubt we are separated by the south. The two states is on the Borneo Island, but they are still covered by the one law.
Thank you. I want to thank the panelists for the excellent presentation. I just want to add the need of partnership among faith-based communities and religion leaders. And we have a very good example between the Interreligious Council of Kenya and the Interreligious Council of Ethiopia. They signed a memorandum of understanding, not only to engage in interfaith dialogue, but to transcend the dialogue to build trust, because the fear of the unknown was causing the problem, and also interfaith cooperation for practical action, for freedom of religion or belief, human dignity, preservation of environment. And one thing which I would like also to add, at the Africa Union, we established what we call the Africa Union Interfaith Dialogue Forum, to foster working partnership to build a bridge between policymakers and religious leaders. As you know, next to family religion being the oldest institution, they need to bring moral and spiritual and ethical dimension to the work of the government. If we don't have enabling and practical and empowering policy on the ground, no matter how much you try, it will be very difficult to implement freedom of religion or human dignity or social justice. So working in partnership for the good of all without leaving anyone is one core element that we are also addressing in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind comment. Now that we are out of time, I would like to appreciate your excellent presentations that discuss the challenges and efforts of different stakeholders in your countries to bring the different faith communities together to accommodate religious freedom in your country. And I would like to ask all of you to give a round of applause to appreciate